Okay, good afternoon. Robert McMahon from Sydney, Australia, Mr. Solar Energy. And today I'd like to give some of my friends some information about designing a solar panel system. Now, a lot of people ask me about solar energy, about solar electricity, and how do they go about getting solar electricity. Well, the first thing, I've got some notes here which I've prepared, and the first question I would ask people interested in having a solar electric system in their home, in their business, on their farm, or wherever they are in their school, is to ask a few basic questions to begin with. And the question is, why do you want the solar system? Now, the answer could be that they want to zero their energy bill. They want to get their electricity for free from the sun and have no electricity bills. That could be one reason. Either get free electricity or reduce their electricity bill. If they don't have enough money to buy a complete system, they might want to partially reduce their electricity bill when the sun is shining. So one reason for getting a solar system would be to reduce your electricity bill. Now, we're talking here about a place that is connected to the electricity grid. If you're out in the country or somewhere where there's no electricity, you would want to get what is called a standalone system. Now, if you're in town, in the city, or anywhere where there's an electricity supply, it's a grid connected system, and you connect up to that and get your electricity. Now, the question is, why do you want it? One reason, as we said, was to reduce their electricity bill. Another reason might be that they want to reduce global warming. They want to be good citizens for the environment and use renewable energy, stop more coal-fired pollution going into the atmosphere and destroying the planet. According to scientists, majority of scientific opinion is that man is harming the planet with all the emissions that he makes. There, of course, is other opinion that opposes that, but the vast majority of opinion thinks we should get off coal and oil and onto renewable energy. And we're accepting the majority opinion as being the right one, not necessarily, because sometimes who knows what is right in the long run, but most people believe that reducing emissions into the atmosphere is going to stop the growth of global warming and stabilize the temperature and the environment on Earth, so that we've got a planet suitable to hand on to our children, grandchildren and our descendants, and we're not ruining it for our own benefit. The next reason that people might want a solar electric system is as a backup. Now, if you're in an area where there's an unreliable power supply, or the power supply goes down, and this is happening in a number of countries and a number of places where the economic growth has been faster than the infrastructure growth, so that the electricity supply has not caught up or kept up with growth, and then when the system is overloaded, something has to give, and sometimes it's your electricity supply for a few hours, and usually at the peak time when you want it the most, on a very hot afternoon when you want to run the air conditioner, that's when it goes down. Or if you're in a classroom in the middle of the lecture, when you've got a demonstration on, the whole thing blacks out and the students can't proceed with their lessons. Or if it's a hospital, or if it's it could be a more vital need that is being provided, well then it becomes vital to have backup power supply so that things wouldn't go down in the middle of an operation, for instance, and which could put people's life at risk. So these are reasons. Having decided why you want the system, the next thing to do is to size it. The first thing you do when you're sizing a system, and have a look at your budget. Now, the constraints on your system now might be your budget. You might say, I can only spend so much money, so that's the size system you have. If it's not the full one, well, that's all you can afford right now. So budgetary constraints could be one constraint for limiting the size of a system. And another reason might be the area that you've got to put solar panels. The more wattage you want out, of course, you want bigger and bigger areas. So if you run out of roof space, then you've got to go out, put the panels up on poles in the garden or outside in the fields. So availability of space could be a constraint, and the space needs to be clear of shadows for trees, overhanging obstructions, or houses that are going to throw shadow on the panels and reduce their usefulness significantly. So they need to be you need to have the area available to point them towards the sun. Now if you're pointing towards the sun, you'll get the maximum. If the panels are lying flat, you need a bit more area to get the same amount of electricity than if they were pointed directly at the sun. Now the angle, of course, will be depending where you are. If you're on the equator, the sun's directly overhead, so they'll be flat. If you're out towards the poles, they'll be at a steeper and steeper angle to point them towards the sun. So 30 degrees is about average for Europe or some of the places, but that'll depend where you are and the amount of panels that you need. Another, well, we've talked about the potential shadows from nearby buildings and other objects, and another consideration may be the aesthetics. You want things to look good, and aesthetics could be a very important aspect. Some people think solar panels all over the place are ugly, and other people put them very neatly on, and architects today, especially European architects, are designing buildings very neatly into the building body, so that solar panel building elements, roofing elements and wall elements on the outside of the building contain solar modules, and some of the architects in Europe have made some very creative designs of facades of buildings and architectural features like sails and diamonds and squares to make the solar panels very attractive. So there you go, they're the main pre-constraints and things that one would consider. And the next thing one would need to do is to find out how much power you need. Now we'll talk about that in my next video.